evening and welcome to Tinkering with µLab. Long-term viewers might recall a mix between a repair and an art project I did for Carpool back in the day. It was about a PCB of an HP µLab that his brother found on the scrap pile. I had to replace 2 of the bus driver chips and build a picture frame around it for display. Ever since that project started, I had a saved search in eBay to see if one of those come up for myself. And yes, occasionally they do, but the asking price is usually ridiculous. Until a day a few weeks ago. May I present a full set, including the original case with the built-in power supply and both the service manual and student workbook that came with it. Woohoo! Though I have to admit it was still a bit too expensive to justify. But what do we bachelors have savings accounts for, right? I was happy to find it in complete and decent condition, but then the postal services struck. Despite quite a few layers of bubble wrap, somebody managed to drop the package on one of its corners. Brittle, ancient plastics plus shock load equals sad kitty. There was a total of 3 holes cracked into the plastic shell of the case, 2 in the lid, 1 in the base. The good thing though, all the bubble wrap kept the pieces inside, so I have a 3D puzzle to fix somehow. The PCB is mounted on hinges, so one can access the backside of it for some exercises, and to keep it locked in place normally, there's a push-pull style latch on the other side. Needless to say, one hinge and the latch were also busted off. And so, let's start disassembling. The power line is soldered in place. Desoldering the power lines was easy. Cleaning the holes, not so much. The PCB is extra thick and the power and ground tracks are sucking up the heat to no end. The inner lining of the case seems to be the only plastic part without any damage so far. Good. Removing the power supply. Somebody put a sticker on it with the set voltage. A quick damage assessment for the bottom part. The biggest hole is in the part where the plastic is held in tension by the metal frame. This is not going to be easy. The supply is multi-voltage, so it's just a matter of switching it to 240 volt. It is also just 2 7805 based rails with 1 honking filter cap. Getting rid of some tape residue in the lid. I think the keys were taped on here at some point. To fix the cracked parts, I used my usual epoxy glue and hope for the best. I also put on masking tape to keep the glued parts under tension. Same procedure for the puzzle pieces. And hole number 2. To get better access to the lower case, I remove the hardware first, the latches and the handle. Sadly, the aluminium frame seems to be glued in as well as riveted. The aluminium band in the bottom half took most force of the impact, and the radius in the busted corner is nowhere near where it should be. I try some brute force to fix it, but I can't go too far because the plastic might shatter even more. The last and biggest hole in the case took some retries. My epoxy glue is a bit on the gummy side. It holds the pieces together, but it can be scraped off. I decided to add some glass fiber and car body epoxy on the inside to reinforce the bottom case parts. These sections will be hidden later, and I can add some glass fibers on the top cover too if there should be need for it. Two of the handle mounts were bent. A bit of percussive nudging made quite the improvement. Up next, the case can be propped up in a tent-style configuration. To do that, there's a strap with 2 clips. One needed a riveting fix. Putting together the power supply again. A new filter cap is first. New thermal paste for the 2 regulators. After closing up the case, a quick output validation. 5 volts on both rails. Check. The PCB hinges are made of some plastic. I tried super glue on the busted one, but also getting ready with OpenSCAD for some replacements. The auction listed the item as works, but the one key is broken, might need cleaning. So I decided to give all the keys a good clean. Also, the spring in them seems to have developed an issue over time. The mechanism is interesting. The plunger is pushed up with a leaf spring which is held in an S shape. When you push down on the key, the spring curls up on the far side, and that's what pushes back on the key. The actual contact part is a small piece of contact spring that presses against some PCB traces. The problem with these here seems to be that the spring have lost their S. I think over time the springs have dug into the plastic a bit too far, so now you have to use brute force to make the straight part curl up. That makes for a very unsatisfying typing experience. The speaker has one of the key springs trapped to the membrane, but since none of them are missing here, this must have been either a factory mistake or somebody was in here before and now some other switch is missing its spring. But these are heat staked, and so I have to first use force to get them out and later some glue to keep them in place again. Would be nice of HP to have used some screws instead for the switches. Here's a close-up of how the spring works now. The little knobs on the base that should make the S are too shallow for now. I'm adding a bit of Kapton tape to pre-bend the spring. That fixes them. Giving the handle mounts a good wire brushing. And mounting the hardware again. One power supply. Check. The inlay is next, complete with 4 screws. Reconnecting the power line. The white-black one is ground, the other are both 5 volts, so it doesn't matter which one is 1 or 2. First power on try. Yes! µLab up. I made new hinges, as the superglued one snapped right off when I tightened the screw. They came with some sleeves, and to prevent them from falling off, I used some heat staking of my own here. The little locking tab also was a new 3D print. It might need a bit of sanding or other tuning, but it does the job, so I'm leaving good enough alone for that. I dry fit and test all the buttons first. As indicated, the button 1 has some issues, but here's the kicker. If you use the address fetch to test the button, the code for that has 1 as a first digit explicitly ignored. So there is no way that you can fetch any data from the 1xxx range at all. The memory map reveals that this range is reserved for the control and key data I/O. After some testing, I used superglue to attach the buttons again. My hint? Don't do that. It seems that the superglue fumes add a layer of insulation to the contacts. Thus, I ended up with about 50% of the keys not working at all and 50% being bouncy like no tomorrow. I had to pull off all the keys again, clean the contacts again, and glue them down with regular epoxy. Now it works. Now let's run a few test programs just to make sure. And that's it. I'm working on getting the 2 books scanned and prepped for archive.org, but the workbook is over 400 pages, so it will take a bit. What's coming up next? Well, since I already have a period correct logic analyzer, I took a peek at the manual and decided to look out for some matching tools to go along with it. I'm currently pondering if I should put the individual restoration videos first, or if I should put up a summary video about the tools in question first. Either way, this is enough for today. I hope you enjoyed this project. See you next time! But these are heat staked, and so I have to first force use to... Darn it!